Evening and welcome. I'm Jane Bradley, CEO and founder of smartspider.net, an association of professionals and pros here in the 505. My guest today is Maxine Chavez. Maxine is the owner and president of ABQ Drug Testing. Now, this is such a critical service in our community. It actually keeps us safe. It keeps us safer. It keeps work environments safer. And we know very little about it. Maxine has been a friend of mine for many years, and I have known a little of what she does, but not a lot. Today, I thought it would be fun for us to explore what drug testing actually is, what it does, and what the results are. Welcome, Maxine, and thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Jane. I'm very excited to share all the information about drug testing, alcohol testing.
Great. Let me ask you first, Maxine, how long, this is a sort of an unusual business. How long have you been in the drug testing business?
It's been 11 years since I started my business. And I first started it just to do background checks, but I realized there was a need to do other types of testing. And I've been trained on all the various types of different drug testing, alcohol testing, DNA paternity testing.
Wonderful, 11 years.
Yes.
Maxine, I wanted to ask you, first of all, what are the major types of drug tests that you can do here locally that what are the that are called on to be done, the biggies?
Right. The most popular are instant type tests where you get results in 5 minutes or less. And we can do any type of, when they say a panel, like a 5-panel, that's your main drugs of abuse, your marijuana, cocaine, opiates, amphetamines, methamphetamines, PCP. But we have a 10-panel, and that throws in different types of drugs, benzos, methadone, oxycodone. So the instance, and then laboratory testing, urine screens. These are all urine screens. Laboratory, we can do any panel that any company or any person needs. And those go out overnight to a lab and they're tested. And if they're positive, they get tested again and sent to a medical review officer. And that person is going to verify any prescriptions that somebody has if something comes up positive. Those are the most popular, is the instant test. But what's up and coming, and what we do a lot of at ABQ Drug Testing, is we do a lot of hair testing. We do a lot of PEth testing, which is a 21-day binge drinking alcohol type test. And the hair tests are really popular because that's looking at a wider, longer window of detection. Typically go back about 90 days.
And you also do alcohol testing. And if I went in today and I had a drink 2 days ago, would I test positive for alcohol in my system or not?
Probably not, but then again, it depends what type of test we're doing. There's so many different types of tests for alcohol. So there's the breathalyzer, and the breathalyzer is looking at the last few hours, basically. That's the most recent usage of alcohol. Then there's a urine screen, regular alcohol 12 to 20, it goes back 12 to 24 hours. And the reason, the time difference is everybody metabolizes alcohol differently. And then there's ETG alcohol urine screen, that goes back 80 hours. Okay, and then we get into the hair testing. The hair testing goes back typically 90 days. Every ½ inch of hair goes back 30 days. So depending on your hair length, that's just looking for excessive drinking behavior. So if that's a positive, it's because somebody has drank excessively or binge drinking. And then one that the courts love, it's called PEth. It's a PEth test, and it's a blood spot. We collect 5 little circles of blood. It's a stick, And that is looking specifically at binge or risky drinking behavior for the previous 21 to 28 days. And it gives us levels. And so there's always a screening level, and it's going to tell us how much. And that's a surprisingly very accurate test. They all are, really.
Oh, wonderful information. Maxine, who are your, as a businesswoman, you have to stay in business, who are your major clients? Who pays you? Who are your major sources of income in drug testing?
Well, we do, we test for a lot of staffing companies, construction companies, car dealerships, a lot of home health care companies. We also do, like roofing companies, trucking companies, DOT, Department of Transportation, trucking companies, airlines.
Nurses, don't nurses, aren't they required to be tested in
Well,
hospitals?
we have a nursing diversion board that we test for, and that has, that's nurses who have gotten in trouble with alcohol or drugs. And so they're on a diversion board for 5 years where they can still work under certain conditions. And we do their random drug testing month, and random anytime from 1 to 3 times per month.
So these are your typical off the street clients, but isn't your major work done for the court systems and CYFD?
Yes, we do a lot of testing, and especially with COVID, what happened during COVID is the POs weren't testing, and we ended up testing for them for a period for about 6-7 months. And then it went back. But we do a lot of child custody cases, divorce cases, child custody cases, DNA paternity, where they need to find out who the father is before they go on with child custody or divorce orders, But the court system is sending us quite a few clients. And we get court orders, and then we determine how best, they send us a court order and they tell us what type of test to do. But say they tell us they want a 6-month hair test, and the gentleman walks in and he's bald, or he has very little hair. Then we have to determine, can we take body hair, and is it advantageous to you to go back 1 year? So there's a variety of different, not the court order doesn't always fit what we can actually test. So we have to try and figure out what's going to work best for the client. So
that is all, this whole thing. What fascinates me is the hair testing. You can test for hair, or can you test for hair in hair for, say, marijuana in the air with, say, a child?
There's a hair test called a Childguard, and this is a great test for, if you feel a child is in danger or is in the home of somebody who's using drugs. I've had grandparents bring in their grandchildren, and they were concerned. They were concerned that their daughter or son was using drugs in the home and wanted to test the child. So it's looking for external contamination on the hair as well as ingestible if the child had taken something into their body. And it's an excellent test. It's an excellent test for the courts or CYFD to find out what's going on in the home, especially if the parents won't test, and
Is testing mandatory always, or can it be?
You were asking if testing was mandatory?
Yes.
If it's a court order, yes, and they do need to come in and test. Not every time will they. But we have times where there's just a lot of people want to come in and test themselves. Say like they've used marijuana for a number of years, and now they are going to seek a new job. And they know that there's a lot of drug testing going on out there for pre-employment. So they'll come in to see us. They're trying to get off of marijuana, or they've gotten off of it, and they want to see if their body is clear. Because marijuana can still show up positive for 2-3 months after they've stopped. And so we have quite a few people that come in just to check themselves, or if they're doing any other drugs, they want to see if it's cleared their system. So we have people that do that. But anytime we get a court order, typically a court order is mandatory. Not all the time will they come in and actually do the test.
Great. I think that drug testing sort of has, in my mind, before I met you, drug testing always sort of felt like, oh, this is something if I got stopped, I'm going to be forced to do. But you can always refuse, can't you?
Oh, sure, sure. And then I look at drug testing, especially for companies and businesses that want a drug-free business. You know, I'm helping that business to stay safe, to stay profitable. You know, I look at their policies and procedures to make sure that they're following them, and that we can do random tests, maybe post-accident testing, reasonable suspicion. You know, the day after St. Patrick's Day, we had quite a few business owners bring in inebriated employees, believe it or not.
One of the things that I want to personally thank you for is the truck driver random testing that is mandatory by all large trucking companies that are over the road truckers. And, you know, if you drive a little car like I do, and you get hit by a big truck, it's catastrophic. And a lot in the past, I know there was drug abuse by truckers, and now they're randomly stopped and tested, aren't they?
They are. We actually run a consortium of quite a few different trucking companies, and they are randomly tested at like 50% right now. And we test them every quarter, and they're in a large pool and they're drawn every quarter. Not everybody will be tested, but they know that they can be randomized anytime. And we also have an aviation company that they get tested every quarter as well too.
So this is actually your service, although you're paid by the employer, by the companies, it actually is working to the benefit of every single one of our listeners today, because you're helping to keep us safe from people who are out in the public working and may be on drugs.
That's true.
Thank you, Maxine.
Thank you, Jane.
This has been such a delight having you today. We will share information after the program is over on how to contact Maxine. Maxine is a long and valuable member of Smart Spider. And Maxine, you will have information available at our grand reopening business to business, pro to pro mixer on June the 29th.
I will.
Have it at a little table, and anybody who's interested in, there's so many new tests and fun tests that we didn't get into today, but make plans now. Join us. Bubba's 33 on the Frontage Road restaurant on June the 29th, which is the last Tuesday of June. Maxine will be there, and I'm sure you'll be happy to talk to people about drug testing, won't you, Maxine?
Absolutely, of course. Yes.
Thank you for being my guest today. Any final words about drug testing?
You know, I know it brings up negative connotations to a lot of people, but we're out there just helping to keep the community safe. Good thing.
You are doing it, especially after COVID, when drug use and abuse went up all over the country and here in our own New Mexico. Thank you, Maxine, for being a valued partner of Smart Spider and a valued community service representative in New Mexico. I'm Jane Bradley, CEO and founder of smartspider.net. I'm wishing you a happy, healthy prosperous and productive day today.